guys, as we discussed last week, we're going to take you through a simple home workout using just a resistance band. You can get one of these at Rebel Sports, at basically any sporting store, and they don't cost much more than 20 bucks. The intention of this workout is to help people who perhaps don't have time to go to a gym, perhaps they don't enjoy a gym at all, and maybe they're just looking to start out with resistance training, so they're not sure if the gym is the right place for them. Now, we're going to take you through a bunch of movements. The key thing to keep in mind is that these aren't the only movements you should be doing, right? So if you do have a workout at the moment, don't go and drastically change them. This is just an example of some of the movements you should be thinking about in your program. Before we get into the actual movements, the most important thing is to not get injured. If you try any of these movements and they're hurting you, stop. There's no point pushing on because there's nothing that's going to set you back as much as injury will. Let's get into it. So before we start any of the movements, in order to prevent injuries and to get that blood flowing, it's really important to have a basic warm-up routine. What we're going to suggest here is to do some a kicking type of movement to get the blood flowing through your lower body, and a clapping movement to get your upper body warmed up. So for the kicks, hold on to something firm and pretend like you're kicking a soccer ball. So I'm going to move that away because we're obviously not going to be kicking it, but get those knees up. And then the other leg. Do that 10 for one leg, 10 for the other one. Repeat that about 3 times. After that, for the upper body, pretend like you're doing big claps. Do about 20 or 30 of those. It should get your heart rate up, it should get you breathing, and then we're ready to get into the movements. So the first movement of the 6 that we'll be showing you is a pulling movement in the horizontal plane. You take the resistance band, anchor it around something firm that's not going to move, and then what you're doing is, depending on how difficult you want to make it, you either stand further away or you stand closer in. The key cues to remember are you want your chest up, your shoulders down, and you want your elbows tucked in, and you want to keep your back upright, and then you're just pulling the band towards yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, squeeze those shoulder blades. 8, 9, 10. That's one set. Have a rest for 30 seconds to a minute and repeat that twice. And that is your horizontal pull. The second movement is the horizontal push. For this, no resistance band. You simply need your body weight. We're doing the humble push-up. The key cues for this, you want your back straight, you want your chest to be in contact with the ground at the bottom of the movement, and most importantly guys, you want to keep your shoulders down and locked in. Back straight, shoulders down and locked in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Same protocol as the first movement. Do that, have a break for 30 seconds to a minute, and then repeat for 2 more sets. Next up, it's the vertical pull. What you're going to need to do for this movement is find something firm above your head to anchor the band to. As you can see, I'm working out in my garage. So what we're going to do is anchor the resistance band to the garage rails. What you're going to need to do then is seat yourself on the floor and ensure that at the very top of the movement, there's still a little bit of resistance on that band. So what I'm going to do is sit nice and steady on the ground, feet together if you want, and then what we're doing is we're pulling the band towards our chest. Same cues as the horizontal pull, chest up, shoulders down, keep those elbows tucked in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as you've probably guessed, 30 seconds to a minute rest, and then repeat twice more. Next up, it's the vertical push. What we're doing for this movement is essentially using our feet to anchor the resistance band. Now, the amount of resistance you apply to the band can vary depending on where it's positioned relative to your foot. In this case, we're going to start nice and easy and give ourselves a lot more slack. What we're basically doing here is we're going to be pushing the resistance band up. The key cues to remember here: chest up, shoulders down and packed in, not wobbling all over the place, and you want your elbows to be slightly in front of your torso. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I started that with my weak arm. You basically repeat the same on the other side. So you keep the resistance the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 reps, 3 sets, a minute's break in between. Next up, we're doing a squatting pattern for the lower body. Now, there's lots of variations for this movement. You'll see a lot of people in the gym doing squats with a loaded up bar, perhaps using some kind of machine. If you're doing this at home, mostly people are going to do this just with their body weight. Now, we can make a whole video on how to squat, and the aim here is to get you started. We don't want this whole video to be about squatting. Some of the key things to remember: you probably don't want to do this type of movement with shoes like this. And the reason is there's too much padding here. One of the key cues for a squat is you want to be pushing through your heels. And having this amount of padding significantly deters you from doing that. The key cues for the squat: you don't want your legs too wide or too narrow. Keep them at a nice comfortable width. So shoulder width is about where we want to start. We want to really focus on moving your backside towards the back wall, right? So pretend like you're sitting on a chair. And the third cue is you want your knees going out. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to create a little bit of room for your tummy to fit into at the bottom of the movement. So basically, and there we have it. Now, the final movement is for your posterior chain. So this is working your hamstrings and your glutes. No equipment needed for this. Basically, you're lying flat on the floor. I'll just show you. Flat on the floor, heels pressed against the ground like we did for the squats, hands out to your side. The key cues to remember for this movement is a little pause at the top, push with your heels driving into the ground, and keep your knees out a little bit. Okay? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there we have it. 6 movements. You're doing them all for 10 reps, 3 sets, 30 seconds to a minute in between. Guys, it shouldn't take any longer than about 20 to 25 minutes to complete. There we have it.